Oh, there's your problem. There's a zip tie doing nothing. Welcome back. What's up, guys? Today we have for you a 1995 Camaro Z28. Or as they say in some parts of the world, Z28. This one's actually kind of fun. It's a cool car. It's one of the students from the high school ministry that I work with. One of my students, he inherited this car, and it's a fun one. It really is. It's got the old LT1 in it, and that's an engine, by the way. It's an automatic variety. It'd be nice if it's a manual transmission, but it's not. But it's been sitting for quite a while. And the customer told me, they said, yeah, we just put a fuel pump in it. 2019, I guess that's just putting a fuel pump. That was 7 years ago. For those of you that are watching this, like sometime in the long future, it's 2026, and they did a fuel pump in 2019, like way back here. That's not just. However, it's got some overheating problems, especially when it's just sitting at idle. I finally got it to recreate, but I also found the radiator to be half full, because I'm more of a half full kind of guy. Some guys would say it was half empty. It was half full. So we topped it off, and I couldn't get it to overheat. It's since leaked some of it out, which we found the leak down underneath at the lower radiator hose. And so we're going to address and look at that. I just let it idle some more. It was also getting a check engine light. Here's a fun thing about a 95 Camaro Z28 that you may not know about, and you're trying to figure out yourself. Good luck. This is not an OBD1, nor is it an OBD2. It's an OBD 1.5. Yes, that's a real thing, believe it or not. You can plug in your OBD2 scanner all day long and 3 times on Sunday, and it's still not going to do anything for you. It'll tell you, nope, can't see it. You need a scanner that will read specifically a 95, primarily, without fail. 94, we could do some little tricks with a little paper clip and jump 2 little ports on the old OBD1 or little connectors, and it would flash the number 12 at you. So 1 flash and then 2 flashes with the check engine light that tells you, hey, we're gonna start telling you the codes now. And then it'll flash the codes, and you guys sit there and watch it blinky, 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 and that's a 35, and it'll do that 3 times, and then it'll tell you the next code. Those are always fun when there's like multiple codes, because each code repeats itself 3 times. So you sit there for an hour watching blinky blinkies and counting blinky blinkies, and by the time you see so many blinky blinkies, you don't know how many blinky blinkies blinked, and then you screwed it all up, and you gotta start all over again. And it's always fun when it's the last one, because your ADHD's kicked in and all that stuff, and you just don't know what you're doing anymore. Yeah. Somebody's told me that before, certainly not from experience. But if you have a 94 or older, you have that opportunity, jump the upper 2, and it'll blinky blinky. If you have a 96 or newer, you can just plug in a scanner. This being a 95, no such luck. But we were getting a check engine light. I'm not quite sure what it was for, to be honest with you. And it doesn't matter. What I do know is that the car had been sitting for a long period of time, and it's had all sorts of bad fuel and things running through it, and there's a fly. Attacking Drew! Attacking Drew! Saved your life, Drew. Completely saved your life. That fly was trying to kill you. Anywho's, I do know that this car sat. Being a higher performance car, they need to be driven, guys. If you have something like this, or you have like a Corvette that's got the V8 in it, we had one that came in and they're like, it's not running right. And it was a 68 Corvette Stingray with a competition 454 that they were getting groceries in, like putzing around. We took it out and we just did burnouts and drifting and sideways stuff and donuts and had fun with it, because that's what it's designed for. You got to get the fuel flowing through the system. You got to get the sparkulators doing the things that it needs to do. The catalytic converters got to get cleared out. You got to get it hot and move stuff through. These need to be driven. So drive them. So we went out and did some romping on this thing, and I can't get the check engine light to come back on. Ha! fixed. Dink. So we got to have a little bit of fun with it. And we didn't show you any of that, but maybe we'll show it to you again because we might have to test on it when we get it done. Also has an AC issue, and we'll see if they want to address that. So we're gonna get this thing up in the sky. I'll show you where the coolant leak is. Nothing major, we're just going through it and checking everything out. So we'll show you some of the stuff that we see on here. We'll make some recommendations to the customer today and then see what they want to do. So Camaro Z28 Ragtop Edition. She's a beaut. She's a beaut, Clark. She's a beaut. Look at that. Look at that LT1 just stuffed in here. Oh, word. That's a lot of fun to work on. These don't have a belt-driven water pump either. That's fun. Those are always good. The AC's tucked way down underneath all that. That's fun. Cool. I don't want to open it right now because we just had it super hot, and if I open this, it's gonna all over the place. So we're gonna let her cool down, simmer down, and then we'll probably pressure test it again. But you guys smell that? No? One day we'll be able to. We'll have the technology. It's got that sweet smell of coolant burning. So we definitely lost some coolant. But we're just going to go through this, make some recommendations to the customer, see what things they want to do, and see what things they don't want to do. I noticed that the terminals, these side mount terminals, by the way, on batteries, are like from the devil himself. They're terrible. They just, I don't know, I hate those things. So I got to start this thing, it's been firing up just fine, and it hurt just a minute ago, it was like kink, and it wouldn't do anything. Those come loose. They suck. If you have an opportunity to, get rid of those things. Why did you guys? GM, seriously. Come on. Anyways, put it up on the lift. See what she looks like. Settle down. Just relax. Okay. So when you're 6'3", even with a lift, you still got to do the limbo under half these cars. But I can show you the main leak that we found, because I was told there's no leaks. But we know better, don't we? Right here on the hose. Right there on the lower hose still has the original factory pinchy clamps that suck. So we're gonna, but somebody's done hosers on it before, but they put the factory pinchy clamps back on. I hate that. I really do. Like the Ford we just did, we put the pinchy clamps back on because the customer specifically requested it. Against recommendations. Oh, there's your problem. There's a zip tie doing nothing. Found the issue. Well, I mean, yeah. Found that issue. Solved. That'll be $150 for that. No. But I do know we need to address this lower leak here. That's one of the things. So we've said this before, I think, on the channel, but the reason why you have a pressurized system is because when you pressurize coolant or water or anything, it changes the boiling point of said fluid. And so you have a, I don't know, call it a 16-pound cap for a reason, because it makes it so the water can run hotter without getting all bubbly and sparkly and poppy and stuff and making issues and boiling over, right? Yeah. So that's why you have a pressurized system. The problem when you have a leak is that it's not able to pressurize. So it's going to tend to boil at a different rate. The more you know. So, and also the problem when you have a leak is that you lose the fluids that you need for the cooling in the first place. But that should just already be known. So we're going to talk to him about getting that addressed, which means we got to drain the system, which probably is not a bad idea. These are known for having air bubbles in the systems. So we do know that these are common to, when you fill them, typical, where you just pour the fluid in from the top. These will have, sometimes air bubbles get trapped. When you have air bubbles get trapped in there, an air pocket, it messes everything up because of, you know, science stuff. And so what we'll do is probably recommend draining the whole system, putting an actual twisty clamp on this guy, getting that solved. We'll vacuum the system. Wow, something just exploded. We'll vacuum the system down. We'll let it sit at the vacuum for a minute to make sure the leaks are solved. And then we'll actually fill this thing up from the bottom up, because we'll be refilling that space that we just put into a vacuum with coolant. I make a tool for that. And it's really cool. And it helps to get rid of air pockets on these common air pocket engines like this. So we should be able to get it filled proper. Like, we also have some oil leaks that we'll talk to them about. We got a front seal leaking. We got other stuff that's dripping and having issues. We'll give them a whole list. Like I said, it's been sitting. You can see the front struts don't look all that great. You know, when they're oil soaked like this, that usually means that they've leaked, and you can feel it when you pull this thing in here and you're going over the bumps. You can just feel it. The back end feels all loosey-goosey. The shocks don't look terrible, but they look like they might be the originals from 1995. So therefore we need to address that. Why is that touching? Well, now that's interesting, isn't it? Wow. I think these, wow. I just saw this. Look at this, Drew. Look it up in here. We're touching the tire. Now, isn't that interesting? So someone's put these big old wide meaty guys on here, and when we put this thing in the sky and the suspension's allowed to drop, we're touching tire. That could pose to be an issue at some point. That tells me our wheel's a little bit too far in, because that shouldn't be happening. I mean, look, you can't even turn the wheel. Wow, I just noticed that. Huh. Well, we'll have to address that now, won't we, too? This is part of what we do when we do the inspections on the vehicles. You want to go through and put your peepers on everything and see what needs to be fixed and what people have messed up. Like that. It's not going to affect the car when it's on the ground and you have the weight, but what happens if you're hauling, man, and then you hit something and it maxes out the suspension, and that edge over there bites onto your tire at 80 miles an hour because you hit a hoopty because you're having fun on a whoopty road? That ain't gonna end well, especially if both of them go kaplow, because that's gonna bite and it's gonna tear in a second, and before you know it, you're sideways. So we'll have to let them know about that. But we're gonna inspect on this thing, check it all out, let you guys know. We'll let you know what we found so far. But let me get a hold of the customer, see if they want us to do any of these things and fix anything. Maybe they just want to take it back and say, I can do it myself. Okay, have fun. Good luck. So we'll see. Got some other cool stuff coming in, so I'm excited, but we want to definitely get this thing addressed. They want us to try and put a rear window in that thing too. I've never done glass on a top before, but sure, we can figure it out. Who knows? We'll let you guys know what we find, what they want to do. We'll bring you along. All right. So, one of the other complaints was that squeaky in the back of this thing. Again, this thing sat for quite a while. Does that make you want to pee? Sound of water flowing. We're draining the coolant. But this thing sat for about 10 years, and then they got it on the road again, and blah, 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 blah. The whole story, it doesn't matter. Key point is, it squeaks in the back. And you can hear it when you're pushing on it when it's on the ground, and it's squeaking really good from the bushings. One of the ways, if you're trying to find like a squeak, especially like a heavier squeaky vibration type thing, is just to touch things. So as Drew was pushing on the car and I'm laying underneath it, I'm grabbing a hold of different components that have bushings and just feeling, because a lot of times that squeaking is going to cause a vibration through that component. So I grabbed a hold of control arms, I grabbed a hold of everything else, and nothing had vibration except the sway bar. So, which is not terribly uncommon for these to squeak after they've been sitting for a while. They get dirty and compacted and stuff down in here. So I'm just gonna pull it apart. Oh yeah, look at that. All the paint's worn off in there. So we're gonna pull it apart, clean it, see what we can do. One of the easiest fixes on these things that I've done in the past is wrapping them with electrical tape and putting them back together, and they seem to stop squeaking. Done that in the past. Sure, we can probably pull it down and clean it real good and paint it to get that surface back on, but they just, you know, they get squeaky. So we're gonna try and fix the squeaky by pulling this apart. So I pulled the clamps off, and we'll just get these bushings off of here and go from there and fix the squeaky issue. What do you guys think? Good idea? Okay. I don't think it's a bad one. It's not that they're worn out, really. Just all that crap gets in there and it grinds away like sandpaper and eventually starts squeaking. So we'll get all this cleaned up. We'll fix that, put all this back together, and we should eliminate the squeakies. In the meantime, coolant finished draining. Let's show you how much coolant came out of this thing. Just can't quite figure it out. I mean, do you have a clue? That's surely enough coolant for this entire system to run efficiently, isn't it? No, I don't think so either. You're right in your assessment. It's not enough coolant in here. That might be a cause for concern. Reason why our low coolant light's coming on. Imagine that. And reason why it's overheating. Could even be a reason why the fans don't turn on or the heater doesn't work when there's nothing to flow through the heater core. I mean, I don't even know if that's enough fluid for the heater core. That's literally how much was in this car. So I'll pull this clamp off. That's going to be a fun one to get to, I can tell right now. I don't even know how we're going to get to that, to be honest with you. But we're going to figure it out. Somebody put that clamp in while they had everything else torn apart, I'm sure of it, because they came in from the top. Wow, okay. We're going to fight getting that clamp off, and then we'll put a screw clamp on there, something that you can get to and is accessible. Imagine that, making parts accessible. You know, we cuss at the engineers, and then you get mechanics that are worse than them. That's one right there. Don't do that. All right, let me toil around back here. We'll bring you guys back and see if it's squeaking still. Perfect. So what this was doing was before it was squeaking when it would bounce. Can you hear it? Can you hear the squeak? Neither can I, because we fixed it. So I didn't have any paint. These bushings have a little felt in them, and that felt just gets kind of dirty, so we did the electrical tape. Just pulled the two bushings off, wrapped the sway bar where it's all raw and worn out and everything, just wrapped that with some electrical tape, just one layer, just to put something in there to kind of give it a little bit more slickery doodahs. Cleaned everything real good. No more squeak. Problem solved. So, got one problem solved. Radiator's drained. We're gonna try and figure out how we're gonna go struggle bus for a minute on that clamp and try and get that swapped out, because somebody did us dirty by putting the clamp in the wrong spot, upwards, where you can't get to it, and it's a pinchy clamp. Pinchy DeWalt, better than Milwaukee. I don't care if you like that or not. I'm hoping that if we pull this battery out, it'll give me access to the clamp. I'll show you guys where it is. It's not in a fun spot. Somebody did us dirty. Let go. Gives us access to something now, doesn't it? Look at all this. We got stuff running through stuff and things running through places. Oh, look at all this. What's all this then? A little corrosion. That's a good spot for a coolant line to run, you know, pinched and everything. That's always fun. Anywho, there's our clamp right there. Could have done it from the bottom, guys, but no, we gotta do it from the top. Pull the battery out. Why not? Reset the whole car. So we're gonna get that guy off and do a little bit of inspectolating and see what happens and what it looks like there. And we got a wall full of clamps in here and probably not the right size. That's how it always works. And put it back on there. Simple as that. This one's not leaking, so I think we'll leave it alone. But that one definitely is. So we're gonna teach it a lesson. A lesson in not leaking. I'll mix. Alright, so what we've done here is we pulled the old springy clamp off, the crappy kind. You hear that noise in the back? That's my compressor. It's right there and loud. But we pulled the spring clamp off. We put a screw clamp, brand new screw clamp on there. We're airing up the compressor. We've got this fancy dancy handy dandy tool. There's my neighbor. Hi, Dwayne!
Hi, neighbor! Hi, neighbor!
Yeah, Wilson! Call him Wilson because he's always just over the fence. Anywho, we're going to hook air up to this handy dandy tool here. I don't know if you've seen this before on our show, but it's kind of nice. Hook it up to your radiator, make sure everything's sealed up. Hook up the air, you open that valve, it creates suction. Venturi effect. Pulls air past you, creates suction, it'll collapse all the hoses, all the hosers, and get everything out of the way there, bud. Then we'll shut that valve when we're done. Disconnect the air. We'll be able to see here on this little handy dandy gauge the doodle daddles, and it moves. If the gauge is sitting here and it goes over to here, then we got a problem. If it sits here and it stays right here, even worse, if it goes to here, we got a bigger problem. But if it stays right here, car not running, obviously, and we know it's holding vacuum, we know we don't have any leaks, at least under vacuum. Now under pressure, that could change. And we'll drop this in a bucket full of coolant, and open that valve. It'll suck all the coolant in with no air in the system. We'll be good. We'll pull this off, we'll pressurize, and then we'll run the car and see what happens. So we just gotta wait for air in the compressor. You know, with all the electronic tools now, you don't have to use the compressor as much. So she just kind of sits there and rattles when we need it. The rest of the time, it's just a piece of art in the corner of the garage. So we're waiting for that artwork over there to do its thing so we can... Over here. That's how that works. We'll show you to you when we get it hooked up. Right now, I'm just rambling because I'm killing time until that's got pressure. What else do you do? I already got the squeak fixed. So I tucked the hose down in there because if you don't, it'll flip-flop all over the place like a freaking fire hose. But we got our air hooked up. We just open that valve. Make sure this one's closed. And it'll just start pulling air through, and we're going to find out if we got a leak real quick. As you can see how this is working, the gauge has dropped down. We started over here, and it's kind of gone over to here. We want to get that to go down. We're going to let it suck a lot out. You can see it's pulling coolant out of the line. Just a little bit of coolant left in the system. We'll let this sit this way for a while, like a good 15 minutes at least. And then we'll shut that valve and see if it pulls air back in the system or not. My guess is we're pretty good, and we'll be able to refill this system here shortly. But in the meantime, tapper, tapper, tapper. Get her out. Anyways, we've been gone for quite a while now. We decided to go return some parts and pick up some coolant because we had none of the Dex Cool. This takes the orange flavor. And, well, we kind of left this thing just sitting there all by its lonesome. And we can see she hasn't moved. So that tells us that we're pretty good. Oh, it's moved just a little bit. But I think my tool's got some issues happening, so I forgot we gotta tap the needle. But it hasn't moved significantly, and I think I've got a slight leak in this valve. However, I'm really happy with the results of it. So that tells me we don't have any major leaks in the system. So we're gonna mix this up. And dang it, should have got some distilled water. So we have some distilled water we can use. But we're gonna take this in just a bucket like this. See, just empty, clean, some coolant, and you just put it in there, and then drop the hose in and suck it in. You typically want to have it above whatever you're doing too, so we can put it up here, or we can go get the trans jack and set the bucket on top of there, But you know, I guess we'll take the coolant out of the jug and put it in the bucket. But that's always something we can do too. Probably a good idea not to just put the coolant in there, but you know, what do you know? So we'll just mix this up. I always buy the concentrate because why should I pay for water? You know, you can spend like $1.50 or $2 more for a jug of concentrate, and if you wanted to, you can go down to your local Wally World and pick up a gallon of distilled water for $1 or whatever they are now. Or we just have our own system here, and you can mix your own. Saves you a lot of money, because for every gallon of concentrate I get 2 gallons of mix, because I make my own. So it saves me. Saving money. So let me get this mixed up. We'll drop the this end of the hose. It's got the little filter on it and the hose clamp that acts as a weight. We'll open up this valve and we'll start sucking in all this coolant, fill it up, and then we'll go to testing on her. Oh, we gotta put the battery back in so she'll fire up too, don't we? We'll do that. Don't you fret none, my friends. We shall make it happen. He's drinking. Something's going on with the tool. I don't know what's going on. I've had that thing forever though. So something's going on with it, but we can see it's drinking. See the hose has collapsed. It's starting to slowly expand and fill up. We'll most likely see the lower hoses fill up first. And then we're gonna look for leaks. But she's drinking. Slowly filling up. Look, it's full. Yay, magic. Pure magic. If you look, the radiator's full. And I am full because something's going on. And I don't know what. We'll have to figure that out later. But we'll fire this up, get it warm. We'll do the kind of normal old school testing that we normally are filling styles, just to make sure that we got this. I don't know what's going with that. It kind of bothers me, but we'll figure it out. That's what we do, you know? That's exactly what we do. So we're gonna stab the battery in back in the hole with these crappy connectors and fire this pig up. See what she do for you. How about that? We'll let you know. Bink, 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 bink. Yeah. Stop jiving, man. About what I expected. Crazy, 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 crazy. Shouldn't be any air bubbles in the system. That's good. Shouldn't be any leaks in the system. I guess we could pressure test it. Or we can just get it hot and let her run. Maybe we put the radiator cap on it and go give her all the onions. See if we can get her to do something, warm up. Better ways is probably just to plug the radiator. This is a lot more fun. Make more noise. What guy doesn't like making noise? Especially when you have square exhaust tips. That's what those sound like, if you can hear it. This thing still stinks though. Are we dripping it all out there, Drew? No leaky tiki?
No leaky tiki.
No leaky tiki. Well, we're slowly building pressure. And slowly building temperature. Look, I'll bring you in ya. Ooh. Drew hates when I take the camera, but I did it anyways. Look at that. We're getting there. Oh, we're getting there. The other thing we got to look at is that light right there. That low coolant light. It keeps wanting to make an approach. And I don't know why it wants to come on. But it wants to come on, and we know the coolant ain't low. That's the next one to figure out. But for now, we need to get this temperature up. What do you think, Drew?
Yep.
Wise words. Uh-oh. Well, there's our check engine light again. But there's our fans. One of the complaints was the fans not coming on. Oh, they're on. That's a dumb place for an alternator. I almost just crammed my fingers in there. Almost got my phalanges stuck in the alternator. That was a really dumb place for an alternator, you know that? For a pulley that's got fins on the backside of it that can suck in a finger. That was really dumb. Or a guy leaning over getting his shirt caught in there. That's dumb. Good job, Chevy. Way to do more stupid things. At least you're not as dumb as Ford, but you're getting close. I don't know why that fan's howling, but I'm going to go turn on the heater and see if that works, because that was another complaint, that the heater didn't work. I really don't feel like this car took enough coolant either. Something's going on that's not quite good-ish. All right, guys, so one of the problems that we've been having on this, or one of the customer complaints on this, was that there is the coolant level sensor. So what we were getting is somewhat intermittent, but since we replaced all the coolant, it's definitely been staying on with the light on the dash. It's that little boxy looking light with the little waves on the bottom and the arrow pointing. That one that you see that you're going, what the heck is this? That's your low coolant level. Beware. So, a couple things real quick. We're going to show you how to do it. We've already removed the battery because I've actually already removed this, by the way. I cheated. I already removed this, and then I realized I hadn't told you guys how to do it. So, right on the side of the radiator, there's a big port and this big box. You'll unplug the cord to it, the cable, the wire, the thingus, the chingadairs. You can unplug that. Now, kind of a warning before you take your radiator cap off. A couple things I like to do is, one, make sure the car is cooled down. Two, squeeze your hose up here. Careful now, because this hose is hot too. That's your heater hose. But just squeeze it, make sure there's not a ton of pressure. Three, when the cap is on and it's on there nice and tight, grab yourself a rag so you can cover it. Push down, twist to the first lock, and then let off slowly, and you'll hear some hissing sometimes some bubbling, sometimes stuff will come out. Let that pressure release, kind of control it with your hand, but make sure you've got a rag over it so that you're not getting all that on your hands, because sometimes that water is super hot. And then you'll want to push down one more time, give it another twist to the left, and pop your cap off. But just make sure that all the pressure is gone, because if you don't do that and you just pop it off, all that fluid's going to come out that's under pressure, and it's going to spray all over you. So be cautious of that, because you don't want to end up, you know, completely messed up. You know what I mean? Like, it'll do some damage. We're talking like hospital time damage. You don't want that. Okay, we got the new sensor here, and I'll show you because it's gonna be a little difficult to show down in there. But your sensor is sitting on here like this. Okay, so if we're gonna show you the face of it, or where it goes into the radiator, it's gonna be right there. You can notice there's actually our little sensor right there. If that coolant level drops below there, it's gonna throw up the light. As long as that thing is sensing that there's liquid, it'll be okay, and it'll be happy, or should be happy. So you can see the position it sits on the radiator. It gives you a little bit of position to lose coolant, but when it gets down to about that level, it's going to be unhappy, and it's going to tell you on the dash. So when we're looking at this piece, I'm going to take a pick, and I'm going to come in from the side, and I'm just going to lift up on this guy, and we're going to bring him out and up and over, And same on the bottom side, out and up and over. And that's going to release that. You may even, a lot of times, I just like to take them all the way off. Once they're up and over, you can pull that out and slide the clip all the way out and get it out of the way. Then you know you're completely clear and you're not holding on to anything. Okay, so that's what you'll do on the car. I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a fight. Let me get my flashlight. Where did I put that? Right here. The sun's starting to go down out here, look out. So we can see right here is where the clip is. And this one we are able to just kind of pick up on it. And you can see it comes off here. And then same thing on the other side. Bring that off on the other side. And personally, I like to just completely remove them and take that clip completely off. Okay, set that over here, set our pick down, and then carefully come in here. Now you do have a plastic radiator, so be careful and make sure that water coolant's not terribly hot, because you're gonna lose coolant. So I've got a bucket underneath. When I did this, it still kind of went wherever it wanted to go, but that's okay. And then you're just gonna kind of carefully pry that out and just kind of work it, and just be very careful not to crack your radiator, and just kind of work that out, work that out. There's 2 O-rings you're fighting past, and that guy will come right out. This one, when we pulled it out, the O-ring was completely broken. So we're actually missing an O-ring right there. It was broken in a couple pieces. We have 1 O-ring left. It doesn't look terribly bad inside of there, but clearly it's not functioning. So once we got that guy off, pretty simple. Take that rag you were using earlier, you know, the one that protected your face and your hands. Make sure you hit your nose. That's a good idea, because you have coolant all over your fingers now. And me, I'm just gonna come down here and I'm gonna clean this spot real quick. Try and clean inside of there. Just make sure everything's clean. I see too many people work on their cars and they don't clean the stuff before. They just pull the part off and then they cram the new one in. And well, sometimes that's your problem. That causes leaks and all sorts of stuff. This car happens to be fairly clean. Now the new one comes all completely built, ready to go. We're just gonna take that guy, and actually I'm gonna grab a little bit of WD-40 real quick. You can use coolant, you can use whatever you want. Just get some fluid on there, just something on these O-rings a little bit. That'll help them to slide on a little bit happier, so you're not fighting it as much. I think you can see in there just fine without the light, yeah? And then we're just gonna stab that guy in with the sensor facing down, or the connector facing down, and you'll hear it pop. It's clicked in. Go ahead and pull back on it a couple times lightly, because remember, plastic, it likes to break. Give it a couple light pulls, and you got her installed. It's really quite that simple. That should solve your coolant light issue. Now, if you got coolant down inside of your connector, grab some connector cleaner, some electric cleaner, and just spray that out to make sure you got it clean. You're gonna wrap it back around that hose here, and you're gonna cram it back on that connector. I'm gonna go ahead and go get some cleaner. We're gonna clean that out. I do not recommend using brake clean. That can deteriorate your weather pack and it can cause corrosion inside. So I'm gonna go get some electric cleaner real quick. I'm gonna clean that. We'll snap it together. We'll top this thing off. We'll see if that fixed our problem. Let's hope so, because we own it now. Whoops. All right, let me get that cleaned. We'll show you guys what it looks like. All right. All right, we went ahead and cleaned this connector. Got it all nice and cleaned out. And while that weather pack is a little still wet from that electric cleaner, we're gonna go and plug that in. That'll help lubricate that to slide in. And that just goes right in there. Clicks on, you'll feel it click. Make sure your connector's completely clean on here and everything's completely on. I just felt the other side and it wasn't fully clicked. It had just come out of the little plastic crack that it sits in. And just make sure all that's clean, you know, connected. Because what'll happen is if it's not fully connected, you'll be driving down the road and that sucker will pop off. Well, there goes half your coolant and more. So, you know, guys, take the time. Clean your space, clean the car, clean the areas. One of the things that we're having a problem with is that this electric fan is being kind of intermittent. Mostly by intermittent, I'm saying staying on a high speed. So, but what I want to do is check to see if this fixes this problem, and then we'll go fix the other one, which I believe is the coolant temperature sensor for the ECM. You've got two coolant temperature sensors on here. Well, one's a coolant temperature sensor and the other one's a coolant something else sensor. What'd they call it? Come on, Drew, you got a steel trap mind.
Sender.
Sender. Thank you. See, I knew you'd know it. One's a sensor, one's a sender. The sender is for the gauges. That sits right down below on the lower part of the water pump, down up underneath there. The one for your ECM actually sits on the side of the head, on the driver's side, up underneath there. So that's gonna drop some coolant when we do that. So I don't mind topping off this little bit of coolant here, just to see if that fixes this. And then when we go to do the other side, I definitely want it cool because that is right next to the header. And I don't feel like getting my hands burnt again today. I didn't burn my hands, I burnt my arm. I got a little kiss from my air compressor. I don't feel like doing that again. So let me top this guy off. We'll put the battery back on. I don't even need to put the radiator cap on to see if this is working. And we'll see if that shuts our light off. We might have solved yet another dilemma on this. And I think a lot of our problems are just all come from cooling systems problems. I think it's where everything's coming from because it all seems to be guided to that. So we'll see if that fixes it. All right, we're back here in the car now. We've got that sensor plugged in. Got the coolant topped off. That was fun, pouring it out of a wide mouth bucket, let me tell you that. That's what you do. So let's see if it turns off here. I'll bring you guys in here, show you the dash. Right there is where our light would normally be. So we got our seatbelt light, and right above it off to the right is where that low coolant light would be. And I'm not seeing it on there. It looks like it's looks like we might have potentially fixed that issue. Huh. We'll let it run for a little bit. We'll find out. Let you know. Alright, so after playing around with some stuff and ignoring the Google machines and everything else says, I had them backwards. So the coolant temperature sensor for the ECU is the one that's on the front of the water pump. Down low on the front of the water pump. You get to it from underneath the car, or you can probably take all this crap off the top and get to it. The one on the side of the block on the head is actually for the gauge. The way you can tell is single wires for the gauge, dual wire is for the ECU because it needs a different communication source. The other way you can tell is just go unplug it. Simple as that. So we unplugged the one on the side of the head, temperature gauge did nothing, plugged it back in and it kicked up. Shut the car off, unplugged the one on the water pump, fired the car up, check engine light came on, or service engine soon, or whatever it says, I forget, in 95. Came on, and the high speed, both fans came on right away. Shut the car off, plugged it back in, no light, no fans, and here we are running. So I went ahead and put the cap back on. We're going to test out the coolant level, test out the temperature, and then we'll finally get to test on the heater to see if that's working. So for right now, we're just gonna let her sit here and idle. If you guys want to join us on that, you can. It'll be a long video of just listening to this thing just going bum, 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 bum. You don't need that. So we're gonna cut it off and then we'll bring you back, you know, when that happens. If something happens. Hopefully nothing happens. Cross your fingers. Subscribe, by the way. If you're subscribed, this car will be fixed. It's the best way to fix a car is by subscribing to our channel. Just saying. Oh shoot, there is evidence. Anywho.